Hi witches! Thank you so much for joining me once again for another exciting week talking about witchcraft. But before we get into today's video, I just want to say a super huge thank you and shout out to Taylor and Ileana who became patrons this week. Oh my gosh! Thank you guys so much. Seriously, I am so grateful for every single one of my patrons because you guys allow me to do this. And this is literally like my dream. So thank you guys so much for your support. And yeah, let's talk about Mabon. Oh! Have a furry little friend. She just really loves the cuddles. Sorry, guys. Okay, kitten distractions aside, let's talk about the topic at hand, Mabon. So this is a holiday on the Wheel of the Year. It's actually the eighth and final holiday before the Witch's New Year at Samhain. But Mabon is the celebration of the autumn equinox and the second of 3 harvest festivals that we celebrate throughout the year. So the first one was Lunasa, which we celebrated on August 1st, so that was like our most recent one. Then Mabon, which occurs around September 21st through the 23rd, and then Samhain, which is on October 31st, or Halloween, but we'll get into the difference between those a little bit later in October. Now, Mabon is primarily celebrated by Wiccans, though it's not exclusive to Wicca. Many pagans like myself honor more of the secular version of Mabon, so I focus a lot of my practices on finding balance and celebrating the earth during the autumn equinox over some of the more spiritual things that a Wiccan might do. There is no wrong way to practice. There's no wrong way to honor this day or honor the planet around this time. So, you might hear me referring to it as the autumn equinox. You might hear me refer to it as Mabon, but I'm talking about the same exact holiday, which this year occurs on September 22nd, 2022. Now, that word equinox, that is a Latin word that you guys might be familiar with. We hear about it pretty frequently. I don't know. I learned about it in high school, at least. But the word equinox, translated from Latin into English, means equal night. And we experienced, if you guys remember, a spring equinox, or if you are in the southern hemisphere, you guys are backwards, or maybe we're backwards. I don't know. I know I have a lot of friends in Australia, which is so cool. So if you guys are interested in celebrating the spring equinox, I have a video about that from earlier in the year when we were going through it all. So definitely check that one out. And then next year, I guess, you can come see this one. Now, Mabon is actually more of a modern holiday. It was actually really popularized in the 1970s by a guy named Aidan Kelly, who was a big name in early Wicca. So definitely recommend looking more into that if that is your path. So it is not this ancient harvest festival, though there are a lot of themes that are carried over from ancient times that are have been revived in this modern era. That being said, did ancient people necessarily have a fall festival or celebrate Mabon the way that we as modern pagans or modern practitioners do now? Probably not. But just because it doesn't have ancient origins doesn't mean that we can't celebrate this holiday. Honestly, I think it's really fun. It's super food based, and it is literally a day or two after my birthday, depending on what year it is. And it's just one of my favorites. It has a really a warm place in my heart. So that is what we're talking about today. Now that I have ranted at you about my love for Mabon, let's talk about some of the ways that we as witches can celebrate this holiday and really get in tune with the planet at this time of year. Now, spiritually, Mabon is really associated with themes of gratitude, hearth magic and hearth protection, shadow work, finding balance. It's about spending time with your family, whether that be the family you're born into or the family that you choose to have. It's about celebrating your accomplishments, preparing for the year ahead, reveling in the abundance of the planet, harvest, and of course, transitions into from one season into the next. Now, if you are a witch who can't really openly practice, which is totally cool, I feel ya, been there, done that, one of my biggest recommendations is to engage with color magic, because wearing a certain colored shirt or maybe a certain colored bandana that's actually a veil or something isn't going to turn too many people's heads. And especially because the colors that are most associated with Mabon are the colors of fall, right? So we're talking about dark reds, dark oranges, golds, yellows. You can incorporate earth tones, dark browns, blacks, golds, stuff like that. So maybe you can find some items in your wardrobe and put together a festive outfit for Mabon, and people won't really know you're celebrating except you unless you say something about it. So all of that to say, this is just your friendly reminder that you don't have to have these grandiose altars or do all of this fancy stuff in order to be a legitimate witch, because there's no witches council who's going to take away your witch's card for only engaging with Mabon a certain way. It's all good. Your practice is your own, and if that's what you can do right now, I love it and I support you. All right, moving right along, for all of my herbalists and green witches in the house, let's talk about some herbs and crystals that you can use to decorate your altar or maybe even infuse into some kitchen witchery. So kitchen witches, listen up. Here are some herbs and plants that are associated with Mabon. So number one is going to be apples. That is the biggest symbol and most sacred fruit, I guess, of this holiday, because right now is apple picking season. Things that are in season right now are going to be associated with that holiday. So take a look at your grocery store, maybe go to a farmer's market and support local farmers and local people to get some special ingredients for a beautiful Mabon meal. Other herbs you may want to use include acorn and oak, so those are the two that I use the most, as well as bay, sage, yarrow, cinnamon, sunflower, maple and ash trees, as well as mums, marigold, wheat, corn, squash, pumpkins, root veggies, so carrots, parsnips, potatoes. Foods to focus on right now or that are really popular for Mabon include stews, chilies, kind of like those first fall foods, as well as mead or cider or wine. I know there's a big importance on wine, especially if you are someone who is devoted to Dionysus. You might want to imbibe in some wine during Mabon or to celebrate the autumn equinox. And finally, game meats such as goose, boar, or deer, venison, are associated with this holiday as well. So maybe branch out and try something new. Now, if you're a green witch who is like, I prefer crystals, I don't really like herbs, totally got you. Some crystals that are associated with this holiday include jasper, amber, aventurine, gold or pyrite, citrine, tiger's eye, anything that is really associated with the hearth, with finding balance and grounding, with abundance and the harvest, as well as stones that are in the colors associated with the holiday. So if you rewind a little bit, you should be able to kind of match up some correspondences and see what you got on hand. And finally, some animals and symbols associated with Mabon include the stag, the blackbird or the raven, squirrels and salmon, migrating birds, again, game animals, owls. You might see witches including symbols of the cornucopia, straw or hay, wheat, pine cones, pumpkins, leaves, scarecrows. Anything that is really associated with fall is probably going to be incorporated into a witch's Mabon celebration, and I encourage you to do the same. Okay, so we've gone through all the correspondences. You know how to create a beautiful altar. Let's talk about some actionable steps that you can take to celebrate Mabon. Now, first things first, Mabon is occasionally called Witches' Thanksgiving, which is kind of funny to me, but basically there is such a huge importance placed upon feasting and celebrating the abundance of the planet, showing gratitude to Mother Earth, and using the bounty that we have in a way that is honoring her, right? So we can do that by creating a feast, sharing with others. Another thing that I really recommend doing around this time, if maybe you're not super into cooking, I am a huge proponent of giving back to the community when you can. So maybe instead of cooking for yourself, donating your time at a soup kitchen or donating food to a food pantry, something like that. So that way we can share in the abundance of Mother Earth and share that with people who may not have as much as we do. As with many pagan holidays, bonfires, candle magic, fire magic is very associated with this. Maybe having a fire outdoors. It's finally getting cool enough in the evening that I'm not sweltering. So roasting some marshmallows or just enjoying nature at night under the light of the moon or the fire. I guess it's going to be a new moon around this time, so perhaps not the light of the moon, but you can definitely still warm your feet or perhaps toast some marshmallows in the flames of a Mabon fire. This is also a really great time to release anything that you don't want to take into the new year. So Samhain, which is seen as the witch's new year, is technically the first holiday on the wheel of the year for a lot of practitioners, and then we kind of go all the way around and then end at Mabon again, right? So in order to kind of cleanse yourself of things from this year, you might want to write a list of bad habits or things that you just don't want to deal with anymore or don't want to have in your life anymore, and throw that into the Mabon fire, which is something that I actually did last year, and then 2 days later quit my job, got a new job, and started doing this for a living. So I would say that it worked. I don't know. If you have the opportunity, I do really recommend witches go and pick some apples, maybe make an apple pie, just because that fruit is so associated with this season. Plus, apple picking is super fun and oftentimes less crowded than pumpkin picking around this time. So check it out. And also this is a great way to pick apples to use in your like actual kitchen magic or in your feast for this holiday. And finally, my final suggestion for this holiday and celebrating is simply to rest. We are entering a time of transition, and it's a really good time to try to find balance. So maybe doing some sort of grounding and centering meditation, or even just taking a nap, taking a break, taking a day off if you can, which again, I know is not accessible to everybody, but treating yourself kindly, gently, and doing some self-care would also be very much appropriate for this holiday, because we are kind of settling into the part of the year where energy is not flowing as fast, or we might feel a little bit more sluggish. It's darker out. Mabon really is that tipping point where the nights are getting longer and the days are getting shorter. So, you know, really connecting with the planet and the sun and the warmth of the planet that we have now, and resting up for that dark part of the year, which can be really taxing on people. I totally get it. I really encourage you to find the peace and the rest that you deserve. So yes, with all that being said, I hope you guys have a fabulous time celebrating Mabon. I can't wait to see it, and if you want to tag me in your Mabon celebration pictures or videos or anything, I always love to see it, and thank you guys who have tagged me in the past. I absolutely love it. I am so proud of each and every single one of you for pursuing your path and doing the magic that you have. So, yeah, I will see you guys later. Bye!